My name is Margaret Hill, I am 78 years old, and last night I was told to sleep on the floor of my own house. Yes, the house I worked for all my life, the house where I raised my children, the house I still pay the bills for. The words still burn in my chest. There's no room for you, Grandma. You can take the floor. I looked at my son's wife, Amanda, and then at my son, Daniel, who stood there with his arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. My knees ached, my back trembled, but I stood tall and said nothing. They thought they had won. They thought they had broken me. At midnight, when the house was silent, I packed a small bag. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed a piece of paper, and wrote in my neat cursive, "The mortgage is no longer paid." I left the note right on the kitchen counter where they would see it in the morning. Then I walked out of the door, locking it behind me for the last time as its rightful owner. When the sun rose, screams erupted from inside the house. Panic filled the air as my son yelled my name. Amanda shouted about bills, and my phone buzzed non-stop. They had no idea where I was, or what I had already done. You see, they didn't know that the house they had kicked me around in wasn't theirs at all. It was mine, and I had the power to make it vanish beneath their feet. But how did it get to this point? Let me take you back to where it all began, when I still believed family meant love and protection. Because the night I walked out with that note in my hand was not the first time they had hurt me, it was the last. Stay with me because what you're about to hear will break your heart, then set it on fire. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you believe no one should ever treat their elders this way. The rest of my story will leave you speechless. Before everything fell apart, before they told me to sleep on the floor of my own house, life had been so different. My name is Margaret Hill, 78 years old, a retired nurse who spent over 40 years in service. I raised Daniel, my only son, on my own after his father died in a car accident when Daniel was just 6. Life was tough, but we made it. Every extra shift I worked, every sleepless night I spent on my feet, it was all to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. That roof, the house, became my pride. I remember the day I first got the keys. I held them like they were gold, tears rolling down my cheeks as Daniel ran through the empty rooms shouting, "This is ours, Mom. Ours." Back then, he was everything to me. I gave him everything, love, sacrifices, and my soul. But time has a way of changing people. Or maybe it reveals who they really are. When Daniel grew up, I thought I had raised a man who would stand by me as I had stood by him. He married Amanda, a woman I tried to welcome with open arms. She was polite in the beginning, always smiling, always saying thank you. I even gave them the master bedroom when they moved in temporarily, to save for their own place. I thought it would only be for a few months. But months turned into years. First, I didn't mind. The house was big enough for all of us, and I loved hearing the laughter of my grandkids running around. But slowly, the tone of Amanda's voice changed. The smiles faded. "Thank you, stop." It started small. She would rearrange my things, telling me they looked better her way. She'd complain about the meals I cooked, saying they were too old-fashioned. Daniel didn't defend me, he just shrugged and said, "She's just trying to help." I swallowed the disrespect because I loved them. I told myself this is family. This is what families do, they adjust. But deep down, a seed of pain was planted. One night, I came back from the garden to find Amanda hosting her friends in my living room. I smiled and greeted them, only to be told, "Oh, Margaret, we're having some private time. Could you stay in your room?" I went to my room like a stranger in my own home. The laughter downstairs echoed like knives. Do you see where this is going? Every day they chipped away at my dignity. Every day they treated me a little less like the woman who built that house and a little more like an unwanted guest. But the breaking point came when I caught Amanda whispering on the phone, "I can't wait until this place is legally ours. She's old, she won't last long." Those words burned through me like fire. I wanted to scream, to confront her, but I stayed silent. I began to watch them closely, every word, every action. Amanda started taking over the bills, insisting she would help out. I let her, but I never transferred ownership of the house. That title remained in my name. I wanted to believe she was just being responsible, but my instincts told me otherwise. The more control she took, the more invisible I became. The last straw was one rainy evening when I walked into the living room to find Amanda sitting with Daniel, telling him, "Your mom should stay out of the way more. It's stressful having her around. Maybe she could use the floor in the kids' room if she needs space." And Daniel, my son, nodded. He didn't say no. That night I felt something snap inside me. The next morning, Amanda walked into my room without knocking and said coldly, "Margaret, the kids need the guest bed. You can take the floor." She didn't even look at me as she said it. Do you know what it feels like to raise someone with love, only for them to throw you away like trash? My heart shattered, but my pride stood tall. Smiled. Yes, I smiled. Because in that moment, I realized they had no idea who they were dealing with. That very evening, while they were laughing downstairs, I sat on my bed and made a decision that would change everything. I called my bank, then my lawyer, and prepared my move. They thought they had cornered me, but they were walking right into the storm I had quietly prepared. You think the note I left was just words? Well, that note was the beginning of their downfall. The following days, I watched them pretending to be weak, letting them believe they were in control. But inside, I was burning with a quiet power. Amanda's parents visited one weekend, and I overheard her bragging, "Soon this house will be ours completely." I chuckled to myself in the kitchen, unseen. Because the truth was, without me there was no house. And so I waited patiently until the right night came. The night I walked out, leaving the mortgage unpaid and their dreams collapsing. But you want to know what happened the moment after they found my note? You won't believe how far their desperation drove them. The story is only beginning. What happened next will shock you even more. Stay with me for the next chapter because you won't want to miss how they tried to crawl back, and what I did instead. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you believe no one should ever let greed blind them to love. Next chapter will leave you breathless. When I walked away that night, the rain poured down like the sky itself was crying for me. My small bag felt heavier than it was because it carried not only my clothes but decades of betrayal, sacrifice, and love that had been thrown back at me. I didn't cry, I couldn't. I had cried enough behind closed doors when Amanda mocked me and Daniel stayed silent. I found a small motel on the edge of town. The room smelled like damp wood, the sheets were rough and the light flickered, but it felt like freedom. For the first time in years, I slept without fear of someone walking into my room, without feeling like an intruder in my own home. The next morning my phone wouldn't stop ringing. 20 missed calls, all from Daniel. Then texts. "Mom, where are you? What is this note? Amanda is freaking out. Call me back now." I didn't reply. They had screamed at me countless times and I had swallowed it. Now they would learn what silence felt like. At around noon, I received a call from the bank confirming what I had set in motion. The automatic payments for the mortgage had been stopped. My attorney had filed to revoke all permissions Amanda had sneakily set up, and the ownership papers were secured under my control. I smiled because while they thought they had taken my dignity, I still held the keys to everything. Back at the house, Amanda was pacing, yelling at Daniel. My neighbor, Mrs. Fletcher, who had always kept an eye on me, later told me she heard Amanda screaming through the window. How could she just leave? How could she do this to us? Daniel tried to calm her, but she spat back. "You said this house would be ours soon. Now the bank is saying the payments stopped. What are we supposed to do?" Oh, they were panicking. And I loved every second of it. That afternoon, Amanda called me herself. Her voice was sugary sweet, the kind of tone she used only when she wanted something. "Margaret, dear, where are you? We're worried about you." I almost laughed. Worried? The same woman who shoved me aside like garbage. I said calmly, "I'm fine, Amanda. Enjoy the floor you made me sleep on." And I hung up. By evening, Daniel showed up at the motel. He looked tired, desperate. "Mom, please come home." Amanda didn't mean it. You know how she is. I looked at my son, the boy I had raised to be a man, and all I saw was a stranger who let his wife strip me of my pride. "I'm not coming back, Daniel. Not while she's there." And not while you let her treat me like dirt. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. Mom, you're making this harder than it has to be. I smiled sadly. No, son, I'm making it exactly as hard as it needs to be. You need to learn what it feels like to lose what you take for granted. Daniel left that night with anger in his eyes. But I didn't care anymore. I had spent too many years caring for people who didn't care for me. Days passed, and Amanda's panic grew. She tried calling my friends, even my church, spinning lies about me being confused or unwell. But I had made sure everyone knew the truth long before I left. The community stood with me. No one believed her. Then came the eviction notice. Yes, I sent them an eviction notice through my attorney. The house was mine, and as the legal owner, I had every right to reclaim it. When they received it, Amanda lost her mind. She stormed to the motel one evening, dragging Daniel behind her. Her eyes were wild, her voice trembling with rage. How dare you do this to us? After everything we've done for you. I stood up slowly, meeting her glare with calmness she couldn't understand. Everything you've done for me. Amanda, you've done nothing but humiliate me in my own home. You wanted me gone, now I am. And soon, so will you. She screamed. You can't do this. Oh, but I can, I said softly. Because unlike you, I actually built that house. I paid for it with my blood, my sweat, and my tears. You only lived in it. Daniel tried to speak, but Amanda yanked him away. They left, but not without promising. You'll regret this. Little did they know, the worst was yet to come for them. Because what they didn't expect was that I had more than just the house on my side. I had a plan, and I had people who would help me see it through. Do you think they gave up? Well, Amanda wasn't the type to accept defeat quietly. She tried something that shocked even me. And that's when things turned dangerous. The next chapter will reveal the shocking lengths Amanda went to try and take back the house. You won't believe what she did. Stay tuned for the next chapter, because the storm has only begun. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you believe respect is earned, and never stolen. The night after Amanda's meltdown at the motel, I barely slept. Not because I was afraid, but because my instincts told me she wasn't done. Amanda was a woman who couldn't stand losing, especially to someone she thought was weak. And to her, I was just an old lady who should have been grateful for a corner on the floor. The morning was quiet, almost too quiet. I went down to the motel's small breakfast area, sipping my coffee while reading the newspaper. Then my phone rang. It was Mrs. Fletcher, my neighbor. Her voice trembled as she whispered, Margaret, something strange is happening at your house. There's a moving truck outside, and I see strangers carrying things out. My heart stopped for a moment. Moving truck. I thanked her and immediately called my attorney. He told me calmly, Don't worry, Mrs. Hill. They can't legally sell or move anything without your consent. If they try, we'll have them arrested. That reassurance gave me strength, but deep down I knew Amanda would push limits. Later that afternoon I drove by the house. I didn't stop, I just watched from a distance. Sure enough, Amanda was outside, directing men to load furniture into the truck. She didn't see me. I smiled to myself because every single item in that house, every chair, every table, was bought by me. She had no right to touch a single thing. The next day, the police showed up at the house. Amanda had the audacity to claim that I had abandoned my property and that she had the right to sell my belongings. The officers quickly corrected her. Ma'am, the house and everything in it legally belong to Mrs. Hill. You need to put those items back immediately, or face charges. Neighbors gathered, watching the drama unfold. Amanda screamed at the officers. You're siding with her because she's old. This isn't fair. But in the end she had no choice. The moving truck left empty, and Amanda's face was red with fury. That evening Daniel called me again. His voice cracked as he said, Mom, can we talk? Amanda, she's not herself. I replied coldly. She's exactly herself. And you chose her over me. Then I hung up. Do you know what betrayal feels like when it comes from your own flesh and blood? It's like being stabbed with a knife that you forged with your own hands. But Amanda wasn't done. 2 nights later, I received a threatening note slipped under my motel room door. The handwriting was Amanda's. "You won't win this. You'll regret what you've done." I didn't take it lightly. I contacted my lawyer and the police. From that moment, every legal move I made was backed by the law. Amanda thought intimidation would break me. Instead, it made me stronger. A week later, the eviction date finally arrived. The sheriff came to the house to enforce the order. Amanda screamed and cried, throwing things, accusing everyone of conspiring against her. Daniel stood there in silence, his head hanging low. The kids clung to Amanda's legs, confused. As they were forced to leave, Amanda spat at me. "You're heartless. We have nowhere to go." I looked her straight in the eye. "No, Amanda. Have a heart. But I also have a backbone. You broke one, so I had to use the other." They left, humiliated, with nothing but their bags. The house was mine again, silent and empty. I walked through each room, touching the walls I had once built with love. But this time there was no joy. Only a deep sadness that the people I had loved most had turned into strangers. Still, the house was my sanctuary once more. Or so I thought. Because Amanda wasn't finished. She had lost the house, but she wanted revenge. And the next thing she did almost destroyed me. Started with a fire. Yes, you heard me right. The next chapter will reveal how Amanda's anger turned into something far more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. Stay with me because next chapter will leave you shaken to the core. And if you believe no one should ever push their elders to such pain, like, comment and subscribe. The fight is far from over. The smell of smoke was the first sign that something was wrong. It was just past midnight when I woke up to a faint burning scent creeping through my window. My heart raced. I grabbed my robe and rushed to the living room, and that's when I saw it, the faint glow of flames outside near the shed. The old wooden shed where I kept gardening tools was engulfed in fire. Panic shot through me, but instinct took over. I called the fire department, my hands trembling as I explained the emergency. The flames grew higher, licking at the edge of the house. I prayed under my breath as I grabbed the garden hose, spraying what little water I could to slow the fire until help arrived. Minutes felt like hours, but finally the fire truck pulled up. The firefighters battled the flames, and after what felt like an eternity, the fire was contained. The shed was destroyed, but thankfully the house was spared. As the smoke cleared, one firefighter approached me. "Ma'am, this fire didn't start naturally. Someone poured accelerant. This was arson." Arson. The word hit me like a punch to the gut. I didn't need to ask who could have done it. My gut screamed Amanda. The police were called, and an investigation began. They found traces of gasoline near the shed. The security camera I had installed, thanks to my lawyer's advice, captured a shadowy figure running away from the yard. It wasn't clear enough to see a face, but I knew. Just knew. The next morning, Daniel called again, his voice shaking. "Mom, Amanda didn't do it. You can't believe that. She was with me all night." I didn't respond. Whether she was there or not, someone had tried to scare me, or worse, kill me. Instead of fear, something else rose in me, determination. I refused to let Amanda or anyone break me. I hired additional security, installed cameras all around the property, and got a restraining order against Amanda. The police were now keeping an eye on her movements. But Amanda was clever. She stopped her open attacks and switched to something more poisonous, spreading lies. Soon, rumors began to swirl in town. People whispered that I was losing my mind, that I had imagined the fire, that I was too old to handle the house and should let the young take over. I knew exactly who was behind those whispers. Everywhere I went, church, the grocery store, eyes followed me. Some friends avoided me. Others stood by my side. But the gossip stung. One Sunday after service, Amanda showed up in the parking lot, smiling sweetly as if nothing had happened. "Margaret," she cooed, "maybe you should consider selling the house. It's too much for you. You could move into a retirement home. It would be easier. I looked her straight in the eye. Amanda, the day I give you this house is the day hell freezes over. Her fake smile faltered and she hissed, "You'll regret this." Her words haunted me that night, but they also fueled me. I knew she would strike again, and I had to be ready. Then, one evening as I was sitting in my living room, my phone buzzed. It was an anonymous text. "Next time it won't just be the shed." My blood ran cold. This was no longer just about property. This was about survival. I immediately called the police and showed them the message. They advised me to leave the house temporarily until they could ensure my safety. Reluctantly, I packed my bags again and moved into a safe house provided by a friend. But as I stared at the empty house from across the street, I swore to myself that Amanda would never win. She wanted me gone permanently, but I wasn't going anywhere. Little did I know, Amanda was already working on her next move. One that would involve Daniel, betrayal at a deeper level, and a courtroom battle that would decide everything. Because the next step she took wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. In the next chapter, you'll see how Amanda tried to legally steal the house from me, and how I turned the tables in a way she never saw coming. You won't believe what happened in court. Stay tuned because the fight is about to explode. And if you're standing with me, like, comment and subscribe, because this storm is only getting darker. Amanda's obsession with taking the house reached a new level. After the fire failed to scare me away, and the rumors failed to break me, she switched to a weapon she thought would finish me: the law. It started with a letter from an attorney claiming that Amanda and Daniel had occupancy rights because they had lived in the house for so long. They were demanding a share of the property, arguing I was unfit to manage it. I stared at the letter in disbelief. My own son had signed it. I felt my knees weaken. The boy I had raised, who once cried in my arms when he scraped his knee, had now legally joined his wife to take what was mine. Tears fell, but only for a moment. Then anger rose like a storm. I called my lawyer, Mr. Harris, immediately. He was a sharp man who had been helping me since this nightmare began. When I told him what Amanda and Daniel were trying, he chuckled darkly. "They're going to regret this, Mrs. Hill. They don't know who they're dealing with." Mr. Harris explained that as the sole owner with a clear title, no amount of occupancy could give them rights over my property unless I willingly signed it over. The letter was nothing more than a scare tactic. But Amanda didn't stop. A week later, I was served with court papers. They were suing me, claiming emotional distress, unpaid promises, and demanding ownership. The audacity left me speechless. Court day arrived. I walked into the courtroom with my head held high, wearing my best navy blue dress. Amanda sat on the other side, dressed in white as if to look innocent, holding Daniel's hand tightly. She smiled at me, a fake venomous smile. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. Amanda's lawyer began spinning lies, painting me as a confused, elderly woman who forgot she promised the house to Daniel. They even brought in fake witnesses claiming I had said I wanted to give them the house. When it was my turn, I stood up. My voice shook at first, but then grew steady. I told the court how I worked 40 years to build that house, how Amanda treated me, how they told me to sleep on the floor. I handed over evidence, security footage, the threatening note, text messages. The courtroom gasped as everything was laid bare. The judge's eyes narrowed as he looked at Amanda. "You've brought false claims against your own mother-in-law? This case is dismissed with prejudice." Amanda's jaw dropped. Daniel stared at the floor, ashamed. The judge continued. "Furthermore, Mrs. Hill, you have full legal ownership of the property. Any further harassment from these individuals can result in restraining orders and legal penalties." 1. I stood there with tears streaming down my face, not from sadness but from victory. Amanda stormed out of the courtroom, screaming at Daniel. Cameras from local reporters caught every moment. The humiliation was public, and it was brutal. But Amanda's fury didn't end there. Outside the courthouse, she turned to me and spat out, "You may have won this time, but I'll ruin you." Her words sent a chill down my spine. I knew she meant it. In the weeks that followed, Amanda tried to turn Daniel completely against me. She whispered poison into his ear, telling him I was the reason they were suffering, that I was selfish. Slowly, I saw my son slipping further from me. One night, he came to the house alone. His face was pale, his eyes tired. "Mom," he said softly, "I don't know what to do anymore. Amanda won't let this go. She wants you gone." I held his hand and said, "Daniel, I love you, but I won't let anyone take what I've worked my whole life for. Not even you." He left without saying another word. Days later, something happened that nearly broke me. Someone broke into my house while I was asleep. I woke to the sound of footsteps and found my front door wide open. The intruder was gone, but my belongings were scattered, and on the kitchen table was a single piece of paper. "Next time, it won't just be a warning." I called the police again. This was no longer just about property, it was a battle for my life. I started sleeping with my phone beside me and kept a baseball bat by my bed. But I also started preparing something else, something that would end this nightmare once and for all. Amanda thought she could destroy me, but I was done playing defense. I was ready to strike back in a way that would leave her with nothing. And when I finally made my move, the fallout was more explosive than I could have ever imagined. Next chapter will reveal how I turned Amanda's greed against her, and how the tables turned in the most dramatic way possible. The revenge was sweet, but it came at a price. Stay tuned, because what happens next will leave you speechless. And if you're standing with me, like, comment and subscribe, because the storm is about to reach its peak. Amanda's threats had crossed every line imaginable, and now I knew there was no reasoning with her. She wasn't going to stop until she had destroyed me completely. But what she didn't realize was that while she was plotting in the shadows, I was already several steps ahead. I sat at my kitchen table one evening, staring at a pile of documents. These weren't just papers, they were the keys to ending this nightmare. My lawyer, Mr. Harris, had uncovered something that would flip Amanda's world upside down. You see, Amanda and Daniel had opened several joint credit accounts under my name without my permission. Fraud. Every purchase they made, the luxury handbags, the fancy dinners, was recorded. When Mr. Harris slid the evidence across the table, I almost couldn't believe it. "This is enough to have them charged," he said calmly. "Identity theft, fraud, and harassment. Do you want to proceed?" Oh, I wanted to proceed. We began building the case quietly. Meanwhile, Amanda thought she was winning. She posted smiling pictures online, spreading lies that I was losing my mind and would soon be out of the picture. Her arrogance was her downfall. To make matters worse, Amanda's greed didn't stop at fraud. She convinced Daniel to sell some of my heirlooms, items that had been in my family for generations. They thought I wouldn't notice, but I did, and I documented everything. One night, I stood in the living room, looking at the empty spot where my mother's antique clock once stood. My hands clenched into fists. I whispered to myself, "Enough is enough." The next day, with Mr. Harris's help, I froze every account they had accessed illegally. Suddenly, Amanda found her credit cards declined, her accounts empty. The panic began to spread. Daniel came to my house again, this time looking desperate. "Mom, what did you do? Amanda is losing it. We don't have access to our money." I looked at him coldly. "That's what happens when you steal from me, Daniel." He dropped his head. I didn't know she was doing that. But I didn't believe him. Not anymore. Amanda's fury hit new heights. She showed up at my house late at night, pounding on the door, screaming, "You're ruining our lives." I didn't open the door. I stood quietly behind it, recording everything. Her threats, her curses, all captured as evidence. The next morning I filed charges. When the police came to serve Amanda with papers, she screamed like a cornered animal, accusing everyone of betrayal. The neighborhood watched as she was led away in handcuffs. For a brief moment I felt peace. But it didn't last. Amanda was released on bail, and her anger grew more dangerous. Daniel came to me once more, his face pale. "Mom, she's planning something. She said if she can't have the house, no one will. Those words sent chills down my spine. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch, staring at the door, every sound making me jump. I prayed, asking God for strength. I wasn't just fighting for my house anymore. I was fighting for my life. 2 nights later it happened. I woke to the smell of gasoline. My heart pounded as I crept to the window and saw Amanda outside, holding a lighter. The cameras caught everything. I called the police with shaking hands as she tried to ignite the fuel. The sirens came quickly, and Amanda was caught red-handed. She screamed as they dragged her away, her eyes wild with rage. Daniel stood in the yard, frozen, tears streaming down his face. Amanda was charged with attempted arson, fraud, and harassment. The evidence was overwhelming. She was facing years in prison. But as I watched her taken away, a wave of sadness hit me. How had it come to this? How had love turned into this war? Daniel stood in front of me, broken. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have stopped her. I should have protected you." I looked at him with tears in my eyes. "You had so many chances, Daniel." He dropped to his knees, crying, "Please don't give up on me." My heart ached. I loved my son, but trust, once broken, isn't easily rebuilt. With Amanda behind bars, you'd think it was over. But no, Amanda had one last move. From prison, she began manipulating people, spreading lies, and plotting her revenge. And the next chapter will reveal how Amanda's reach from behind bars nearly cost me everything, even my freedom. Stay tuned for the next chapter, because the storm isn't over yet. If you believe justice always finds its way, like, comment, and subscribe. The final battles are coming. For a few short weeks I breathed easier. The house was quiet again, safe again. Amanda was behind bars, and I thought at last I could heal from the storm. But evil has a way of reaching beyond walls. It started with phone calls from unknown numbers. At first I ignored them, but then a voice message arrived. Amanda's voice, dripping with venom, said, "You think you've won, Margaret? Prison won't hold me forever. When I get out, you'll pay." I played the message over and over, my hands shaking. I sent it straight to the police, and they added it to her case. But fear crept in like an old enemy. Even from prison, Amanda was scheming. The neighborhood had become a battlefield of gossip. Some believed me, others pitted Amanda. I could hear whispers when I walked to the store. "That poor young couple. The old lady is cruel." They didn't know the truth. Or maybe they didn't care. Then came the unexpected blow, Daniel. He came to my house one night, but not to apologize. His face was hard, his eyes cold. "Mom," he said, "Amanda doesn't deserve this. She's the mother of my children. You need to drop the charges." I stared at him, stunned. "Daniel, she tried to burn me alive. She stole from me. She lied. And you want me to forgive that?" "She's my wife," he said simply, as if that excused everything. My voice rose. "And I'm your mother. But you chose her every single time she tried to destroy me." Daniel turned away, muttering, "You'll regret this." The door slammed behind him, and my heart shattered all over again. Days later, strange things began happening. My mailbox was smashed, my tires slashed, and my back fence broken. The police said it was probably teenagers, but I knew better. Amanda still had friends on the outside. She was pulling strings even from prison. Then came the worst. One evening, as I was making tea, the police arrived at my door. They handed me a court summons. Amanda had filed a counter-lawsuit from prison, accusing me of elder abuse against her. The absurdity made me laugh at first, but when I saw the papers, my stomach dropped. She had fabricated false witnesses and claimed I had physically assaulted her multiple times. The thought of being dragged to court as a criminal tore at my soul. I was 78, and instead of spending my days in peace, I was fighting for my name. Mr. Harris assured me, "We'll crush this. Don't worry." But I worried. At night, I cried into my pillow, asking God why this nightmare wouldn't end. On the day of the hearing, I walked into court with trembling hands but a straight back. Amanda appeared on a screen from prison, smirking as if she'd already won. She and her lawyer spun lies so elaborate they almost sounded real. Then it was my turn. I stood and spoke the truth, voice breaking but strong. I showed evidence, the threatening notes, the videos, the arson attempt, everything. Witnesses from the neighborhood testified in my favor. Slowly, Amanda's lies unraveled before the judge's eyes. The judge slammed his gavel. Case dismissed. And Ms. Amanda Johnson, this is a clear abuse of the legal system. Additional charges will be filed against you. Amanda screamed through the video feed, cursing at everyone. The guards cut her feed, but her rage echoed in my ears long after. After the hearing, Daniel didn't speak to me. He walked past me like I was a stranger. That hurt worse than any of Amanda's attacks. That night, I sat alone in my living room, staring at the house I had fought so hard to keep. It no longer felt like a home. It felt like a fortress, one I had to guard against my own blood. But amid the pain, something inside me hardened. I realized I couldn't keep living in fear. If Amanda wanted war, then I would end this war on my terms. I met with Mr. Harris again. Together, we began the process of legally cutting Daniel and Amanda off from everything. No inheritance, no claims, no rights. I even changed my will. Amanda thought she was destroying me, but she was only sharpening me. The final showdown was approaching. Amanda was about to face sentencing, and I had one last card to play, one that would seal her fate forever and give me back my peace. But the cost of this final move would shake everything, including my relationship with Daniel. In the next chapter, I will reveal the ultimate confrontation, the day I looked Amanda in the eyes for the last time, and the shocking twist that no one saw coming. Stay tuned because the end is near, and it's going to leave you breathless. Like, comment, and subscribe if you believe justice always finds its way, no matter how long it takes. The day of Amanda's sentencing arrived like a storm on the horizon. I stood in front of the courthouse, the sky heavy with clouds, the air thick with tension. Inside, Amanda would learn whether her years of manipulation, lies, and attempted violence would finally catch up with her. I walked through those courthouse doors with my head high, every step echoing with the strength I had earned through pain. Daniel was already inside. He didn't greet me. He didn't even look at me. He sat on Amanda's side, his jaw clenched, his face pale. It broke my heart, but I didn't let him see it. I sat on my side, alone but unbroken. When Amanda was brought in, shackled, she still managed to smirk at me. That smirk said, "I'm not done with you." The judge entered, and the room fell silent. The prosecution presented every piece of evidence. Videos of Amanda attempting to set my house on fire, the threatening texts, the fraudulent accounts, the fabricated lawsuit. Each detail was another nail in the coffin Amanda had built for herself. When it was Amanda's turn to speak, she put on her sweetest voice, pretending to be the victim. "Your Honor," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I was under so much stress. Margaret has always hated me. I was just trying to protect my family." I wanted to laugh. Instead, I looked at the judge, knowing the truth was already clear. Finally, the judge delivered the verdict. "Amanda Johnson, you are hereby sentenced to 15 years in state prison for attempted arson, fraud, harassment, and abuse of the legal system." The gavel came down, and Amanda's smirk faded. She screamed, cursing at the judge, at me, at everyone. The guards dragged her away, but not before she shouted, "You think this is over, Margaret? You'll pay. You'll all pay." The room erupted into murmurs, but I felt a strange calm wash over me. Justice at last was served. But my heart still ached. Daniel stood up, his eyes filled with tears, and whispered, "Mom, how could you? You put the mother of my children in prison." My own tears fell. "No, Daniel. She put herself there. And you helped her." He turned and walked out, leaving me standing there, feeling both victorious and shattered. For weeks after the sentencing, the house felt emptier than ever. Yes, Amanda was gone, but so was my son. He wouldn't answer my calls, wouldn't visit. I missed my grandchildren, their laughter, their hugs. The silence was deafening. One evening, as I was watering the garden, A car pulled into the driveway. My heart skipped when I saw Daniel step out. He walked slowly, his eyes downcast. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said softly. "I should have protected you. I should have seen what she was doing. But I was blind." I walked to him, placing a trembling hand on his cheek. "Daniel, you're my son. I will always love you. But love doesn't erase what happened. You have to earn back my trust." He nodded, tears falling. "I will, Mom. I promise." For the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe my son and I could rebuild. Maybe there was still something worth saving. But just when I thought the nightmare was over, a letter arrived. It was from Amanda. Even in prison, she found a way to reach me. The letter was full of threats, promises of revenge, and one chilling line. "I have friends on the outside. You will never be safe." My hands shook as I read it. I gave it to the police, but fear crept back into my heart. Could Amanda still hurt me from behind bars? Mr. Harris advised me to strengthen my security. I installed more cameras, alarm systems, and even adopted a guard dog. I wasn't going to live in fear, but I wasn't going to be careless either. Then something unexpected happened. Daniel began visiting more often, bringing the children. They ran through the house, filling it with life again. For the first time in a long time, I smiled from my heart. But the threat from Amanda loomed like a dark cloud. Every time the phone rang, every time a car slowed near my house, I wondered if it was the beginning of another attack. I decided I needed to end this once and for all. Not just legally but emotionally. I needed closure. Through my lawyer, I arranged to meet Amanda face-to-face one last time in prison. People told me I was crazy, but I had to look her in the eyes and tell her the truth. The day I walked into that prison room, Amanda sat on the other side of the glass, her eyes cold, her smile mocking. She picked up the phone and sneered. "Come to gloat, old lady." I took a deep breath, looked straight into her eyes and said, "No, Amanda. I came to tell you that you've lost. You can threaten me, you can hate me, but you will never break me. You have no power here. Not anymore." She slammed her hand on the glass, screaming as guards dragged her away. I stood up calmly, knowing I had finally taken back my power. As I walked out of that prison, I felt lighter. The war was ending. But the final chapter of this story would bring the ultimate peace, and a twist no one, not even Amanda, saw coming. In the next chapter, I will reveal how I secured my future, protected my family, and delivered the final life lesson Amanda left me with. This ending will shock you, but it will also heal you. Stay tuned, because the conclusion will leave you with a truth you'll never forget. Like, comment, and subscribe if you've followed me this far. The ending is here. The final chapter of my story begins on a crisp autumn morning. The leaves had turned gold, and the air smelled of change. For the first time in what felt like years, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea, listening to the rustle of the wind without fear in my chest. Amanda was locked away, her power over me broken. But even so, her shadow still lingered in my mind. That's when I decided to secure my legacy once and for all. I met with Mr. Harris and finalized everything. I rewrote my will, ensuring my house and assets would pass directly to my grandchildren, under conditions. Daniel could only benefit if he proved he could protect them and never allow anyone like Amanda back into their lives. If he failed, everything would go to charity. It was harsh but necessary. Meanwhile, Daniel slowly began repairing our relationship. He started helping me around the house, sitting with me for tea, and sharing his regrets. He confessed things I hadn't known. How Amanda manipulated him with threats, how she isolated him from his friends, how she convinced him that I was the enemy. I listened, my heart aching but also softening. For months there was peace. Then one day I received a call from the prison. Amanda had been involved in a violent altercation and was placed in solitary confinement. She wouldn't be eligible for parole for a long time. The warden assured me she had no way of reaching me or my family anymore. Still, I wanted to make one final move to protect us forever. I sold the house. Yes, the home I had fought so hard to keep. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. The memories had become too heavy, the walls too full of ghosts. I used the money to buy a smaller, cozier cottage in a gated community where no one could hurt me again. When Daniel found out, he was shocked. "Mom, why would you sell it after everything you went through to keep it?" I smiled softly. "Because a house is just walls and a roof, Daniel. What matters is peace. And I've finally found mine." The day I moved out, I left behind one last note on the kitchen counter for whoever would buy it. "This house was built with love, endured betrayal, and survived fire. Take care of it, and it will take care of you." Amanda's threats faded with time. Her letters stopped coming. Her name became just a bitter echo of a past I had survived. My nights grew quiet, my mornings peaceful. Daniel visited often, and slowly our bond mended. The children laughed and played in my new garden, their joy washing away years of pain. They loved coming to Grandma's new house, and their laughter reminded me why I fought so hard, why I never gave up. One evening, Daniel sat beside me on the porch. "Mom," he said softly, "you were right about everything. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I didn't deserve it." I held his hand and whispered, "Family is worth fighting for, Daniel. But only if they fight for you too." As the sun set, I felt a warmth in my heart. I had lost a lot, but I had gained something far greater: freedom, strength, and peace. And to Amanda, wherever she sits in that prison cell, I say this: you thought you could break me, but all you did was teach me how strong I really am. My story is one of pain, betrayal, and fire, but it's also one of survival, justice, and love that refused to die. To everyone listening, remember this: never let anyone treat you as less than you are. Never let anyone take away what you've worked for. And never, ever forget, your strength is far greater than their hate. Because at 78 I was told to sleep on the floor, but I walked out with my head held high, leaving behind a note that changed everything. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If my story touched you, share it, like it, and leave a comment, because no one should ever feel powerless in their own home.